November 2nd, 1988, the day the internet changed forever. Let's get right into it.
$10 million. That's staggering number. That's the upper estimate of the economic damage caused by just a single piece of code in a matter of hours. The U.S. Government Accountability Office estimated the total hit was anywhere from $100,000 to $10 million. This proved, really for the first time, that the digital world could have massive, real-world financial consequences.
Section 1. The Internet's Great Worm, November 1988.
So the culprit behind this was Robert Tappan Morris, and the pedigree here is actually fascinating. Morris was the son of a prominent NSA cryptographer, and he was a PhD student at Cornell. But he deliberately launched this worm at 8:30 p.m. from MIT's network. Why? Simply to cover his tracks so the code couldn't easily be traced back to Cornell. Now, this self-replicating malware, which got dubbed the Great Worm after the dragons in Tolkien's lore, targeted very specific early internet infrastructure. Mainly, it was designed to infect DEC VAX machines running 4BSD, along with Sun 3 systems. It basically used a portable C program like a grappling hook to pull down its main body and infiltrate the network.
Section 2. Anatomy of the attack. Breaking the ARPANET.
Let's look at exactly how this digital break-in went down. The worm didn't just rely on a single trick. It actually exploited 4 main vulnerabilities. First, it took advantage of a hole in the debug mode of the Unix sendmail program, and then a buffer overflow in the Finger network service. On top of that, it exploited the transitive trust of network logins that literally didn't require passwords, stuff like rexec or RSH. And finally, it guessed weak passwords using a spelling checker dictionary and super simple patterns. Think username or username spelled backward, Iman Resu. It really highlights just how lacking foundational network security was back then.
But here's where things get wild. There is a massive gap between what Morris claimed he was doing and the catastrophic reality. According to a friend, Morris built the worm simply to see if he could. A harmless intellectual exercise just to gauge the size of the ARPANET. He absolutely never intended for it to be destructive. But the actual result? A highly destructive, viral denial-of-service attack that brought entire systems to their knees.
Section 3. The 14% mistake. A fatal error.
That huge gap between his intention and reality, it all comes down to a single, fatal coding decision. Originally, the worm was programmed to check a computer to see if it was already infected. But Morris got paranoid. He worried clever system admins might instruct their computers to report a false positive, essentially tricking the worm to avoid infection. So, to counter that, he hard-coded the worm to replicate 14% of the time, completely regardless of the computer's actual infection status. He actually got the idea for that copy rate from cryptographer Michael Robin's mantra of randomization. Robin later quipped that Morris really should have tried it on a simulator first.
So, that 14% replication rate? That was the fatal error. It turned what was supposed to be this quiet, under-the-radar background process into a massive fork bomb. By infecting machines multiple times, each new infection bogged the hardware down more and more until it was completely unusable, crashing the computers several times over.
Section 4. Paralyzing the ARPANET. The fallout.
Let's look at the immediate aftermath and the sheer chaos this unleashed in November 1988. Systems Administrator Clifford Stahl had a front-row seat to the devastation. He noted that the machines were totally dead in the water. And removing the virus was incredibly tedious, often taking 2 full days per machine. The U.S. Court of Appeals later estimated the cleanup cost at anywhere from $200,000 to $53,000 per installation. The internet literally had to be partitioned for days. Regional networks were physically disconnecting from the NSFNET backbone and from each other, just to prevent getting reinfected while they scrubbed their systems.
The scale of this was just unprecedented. Stoll estimated about 2,000 computers were infected within the first 15 hours alone, but the most commonly reported figure is that around 6,000 major Unix machines were compromised. To put that into perspective, there were only an estimated 60,000 computers attached to the internet at the time. So we're talking about roughly 10% of the entire internet being taken offline by one single program.
And the major takeaway from all this disruption is the extreme danger of a software monoculture. Because almost everyone on the ARPANET ran Berkeley Unix, the entire system was uniformly vulnerable. As Stoll pointed out, if absolutely all systems ran Berkeley Unix, the worm would have disabled every single one of them. The lack of diversity in software meant that a single key could unlock almost every door.
Section 5. The first cyber felony. Legacy of the worm.
Let's examine the historical and legal precedents set during the cleanup, because this really shaped modern cybersecurity as we know it. The reaction was incredibly swift. The psychological impact on how people perceived internet security was totally devastating. In response, DARPA immediately funded the CERT Coordination Center at Carnegie Mellon University. So for the very first time, experts actually had a central point to coordinate responses to network emergencies. And simultaneously, the justice system went after Robert Tappan Morris with unprecedented legal action.
As a result, Morris became the first person ever convicted of a felony under the 1986 Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. After his appeals, he got 3 years of probation, 400 hours of community service, and total fines and costs amounting to over $13,000. Interestingly, his specific coding exploits became pretty obsolete shortly after. Systems started decommissioning those unsecure remote shells, patched up the sendmail and finger bugs, and totally overhauled their password awareness.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to consider about the very systems you're using to watch this explainer today. If a single 14% coding error could completely cripple the 1988 ARPANET, how vulnerable are today's software monocultures to the next great worm? The internet has obviously grown exponentially since then, but our reliance on shared operating systems and unified cloud infrastructures, that's still very much a reality. Are we truly more secure now, or are we just waiting for the next 14% mistake?